key, in my opinion, to building a nation is to first recognize that nation, to first recognize ourselves as a people. I was born in the army. My dad was a captain in 1962. I was born in 1960. And it couldn't have been more traumatic because almost a few years of my existence on this planet virtually, the 62 war happened. And two Rajputs, which was my father's battalion, took the brunt of the attack from the Chinese. We had 282 men who were wiped out in a matter of 1.5 hours on the Namkachu River. After years of having been a colonized country, when we finally got independence, we did a lot of things which were wrong, there were a lot of things which we did right. We held this country together, which was a very major achievement. But in the political leadership of that time, the biggest failure, if one had to point it out, it was the handling of the military. Because the military, unfortunately, was seen as a weapon of the colonial powers, of the British, which had held India together from their point of view. And to strike that balance, somehow things went a little awry. Today, Indian intellectuals are scared to even put it on paper that Arunachal is ours, that Ladakh is ours, and that China is talking absolute nonsense. China didn't exist, in 1947 as far as we are concerned. They were not our neighbors. In 1949, when they annexed Xinjiang, we suddenly had a live border with Kashmir. Otherwise, they were not there. And when they saw that we didn't do anything in Xinjiang, they still had a case. But when they saw that we haven't reacted to that, and in the aftermath of World War II, the whole world is exhausted, nobody's going to do anything about it, Mao then went ahead and grabbed Tibet. And despite warnings, and despite more warnings, we let our men down. And we got hammered. How many of you have heard of Bor Phukun? Bor Phukun. Bor Phukun was a contemporary of Shivaji. He was a home general. And they're actually born 15 years apart. Shivaji fought the Mughals, so did Bor Phukun. Nobody in India has heard of Bor Phukun. The Mughals, when they came up the Brahmaputra, what they call the Jamna from that side of East Bengal, they were given such a hiding near Guwahati. First they pushed right up to Sibsagar, then they were pushed back. And the Ahoms gave them such a hiding that, nobody ever dared to invade by that route again. Even the British, when they came in later, 100 odd years later, came in through Burma. They did not take this route again because it was a hammering of a lifetime. Shivaji was a great guerrilla fighter, but he never had the kind of success which the Assamese had against, but nobody in India knows anything about it. Similarly, you go to Mizoram, you go to Manipur, you go to Nagaland, we are talking to alien people because we just do not, there's just too much of this nonsense going on that, this guy is from here, this chap's a Christian, this chap's a Muslim, the religion actually is the last thing that really should be looked at. We are an entity as a subcontinent. And unless we start telling ourselves the truth and looking at our military history, we are going to be in real solid trouble. I have worked with the Indian Army a lot. I have flown over 350 fighter sorties with the Air Force. The Indian Armed Forces today is one of the finest fighting forces in the world. I have absolutely no hesitation in saying that. I've operated with them. I've flown with them. I've sailed on every combat ship there is in this country. And I've fought with them. I've been in Kargil. I've been in 1995. I shot the history of the Indian Army. Somehow the Hizbul Mujahideen always seemed to know where I was because they would always ambush my party. And, you see our chaps fighting. Our men, they are outstanding. And that is why 62 hurts even more. that we let down an army which was ready to fight to the last man, but we didn't let them fight. You don't treat your armies with respect, you're going to be in trouble. Now we are talking of greatness of a nation, we are talking of the future. Our problem, in my view, is that unless we really start looking at development and ourselves as a whole, as a country, because even the one individual who's dissatisfied is going to be your weak link. Do you all remember the Kandahar hijacking, right? When they came and they took that aircraft first to Dubai and then they went and landed at Kandahar. Now, I give this example at various forums. When we had Pakistan on the mat, the Pakistanis turned around and said, "Oh, but those guys got Indian passports." Now, just for a second, just think about it. Some tout in Bombay was given 500 rupees by some fellow to say, "Bhaiya, mera jaake ye farzi passport banao." This happens every damn day. I mean, there's nothing new about it. Now you pay him 500 bucks, he goes and makes it. But eventually Pakistan gets off the hook because they turn around and say that those guys got Indian passports. So the one guy who took that 500 bucks, if you talk to him, he's not done anything about national security. I mean, he's not even thinking about that. But it's that one chink which is going to let you down. And that's the chink that we've got to stop. And that's the only way to do it is, let's start talking history the way history has happened in this country. We don't necessarily have to go 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 years into the past. That's equally important. But we need to start telling the truth about what happened in 1947-48. We need to talk about 62 dispassionately. We need to be able to discuss 65, 71 with our children. China, as Mr. Guatier said, I mean, this is a very aggressive country sitting over there. If you think that China is going to roll over and go away from your northern borders and stop their claim on Arunachal or on Ladakh or whatever just for the heck of it, they're not going to do it. Why do you think they haven't settled the boundary issue? They've got 14 countries with whom they have boundaries, and they've settled the boundaries with every other country except India. And they're not going to settle it in a hurry. If we think that they're going to do it, we are sadly mistaken. And before I wind up now, I'm going to just come back to China from another perspective. Look what's happening in Nepal at the moment. We're losing Nepal. Losing may be a wrong word. We probably already lost it. Because after the earthquake and the entire blockade that took place in UP and this thing, has the entire and China, which until now has never really been interested in the internal functioning of Nepal, suddenly realized that this is a godsend opportunity. So what did they do? They haven't pumped in any fuel, they haven't pumped in any food, they haven't pumped in anything. They bought up the press. And the anti-Indian feeling in Nepal today is at a level which, ladies and gentlemen, you have no idea what's happening. It's another 1962 which is happening. We had a meeting in the IDSA this morning, we were talking about this. And everybody over there looking at me as if I'm some alien from some other planet. I said, "Sir, this is what is going on." No, we just come back from a study in Kathmandu and we found this. I said, who are you talking to? And yet, the people of Nepal are a part of us. I mean, we are as closely interlinked as that, and yet we are losing that now. We are making the same mistake in the Northeast. But we've got to wake up to all this. We've got to stop these turf wars. We've got to stop thinking police. We've got to stop thinking Assam Rifles. We've got to stop thinking Indian Army. We've got to stop thinking Indian Air Force. We've got to start thinking India. We've simply got to go with that orange, white and green which is flashed on our shoulders, and we've got to fight for it. Because if you give that cheek to China, forget China, even Pakistan, even Bangladesh, even Burma will exploit it if they are given the opportunity. You are what you are. Our boundaries are absolutely sacred. There's nothing to stop us from moving forward, but we've got to be like that. Any chink in that fist, you had it. We may have problems. We've got the poorest people on the planet. We have education issues. We've got everything But the intelligence here which is holding us at ransom especially vis-a-vis China. Somebody has to counter them. So ladies and gentlemen, we've been blessed. We've got a part of the planet which is something else. Get airborne. I mean, next time you're flying from Delhi to Bombay or Bombay to Chennai or anywhere, just look down. Just look at those rivers, look at those mountains, look at what we've got. We've got to start valuing it. Thank you.
Tales that inspire. Stories of social change. A salute to diversity. Promoting public discourse. Events that motivate. Inspiring the innovative spirit. Watch Rajya Sabha television documentaries. Mondays, Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 10:30 p.m.
India is a great country. I mean, as a Westerner who came to India very young, I am aware that in this country there is a knowledge, which is lost to the world, which once was everywhere, in Mesopotamia, in Egypt, in Greece, in so many countries. There was a knowledge of, what is karma, what happens when you die, why you're born again, what is consciousness, what is an avatar. Such a precious knowledge. Who am I? Why did I come on earth? What is my dharma? What is my duty? This is such a precious knowledge which the world needs today. The world needs today that knowledge. And it's a universal knowledge. That knowledge is not sectarian. It says, the air that you breathe is universal. Anybody can learn to breathe properly, whether it's a Muslim, whether it's a Christian, whether it's a Hindu. The world belongs, the world is a big family. We've forgotten this great truth, and it is there in India. That knowledge, in spite of so many centuries of invasions, of bloodshed, of assault, which is going on today, even more, that knowledge is still alive. It's so precious. As a Westerner, of course, I come from a civilization that is more materialistic than India, that has more perfection, in the material. Things are better in Europe, it's easier to live, but the knowledge is lost. People, out of 10 people, 7 are depressed. Out of 10 couples, 8 divorce, because they don't know. They don't have that knowledge. Now, to come back to the material, it is true that there is poverty. It is true that, and it's heart-rending sometimes to see the poverty in some of the villages, but to always harp on the negative is not going to solve it. There's an entire group of Indians who also use false statistics. I live partly in Tamil Nadu, and I go to the Himalayas. It is wrong, that 80% of people, of women, are still using firewood. It's not true anymore. These are old statistics. So sometimes statistics are even falsified. There was a great scientist here in your country who said that by 2030, all the glaciers of the Himalayas will melt. That harping on the negative, that saying that India is a hopeless country, it shocks me. It shocks me, even though there is some truth in it. It shocks me because unless you have pride in your country, how are you going to move forward? And that is the whole topic here. I'm not saying pride with blinkers, I mean, you shouldn't have blinkers. As a journalist, I have to report the truth without blinkers, to the best of my ability. So there are some people who just, have pride that turn into jingoism. But here in India, it's the opposite, Most of the youth, is never taught about the greatness of their country. As a Frenchman, from kindergarten, I'm taught about, my great poets, my great warriors, my great statesmen. I am taught to be proud to be a Frenchman. In India, it is not so at all. You are just making Western clones, You have brilliant students who come out of university and they don't know who Kalidasa is. Kalidasa is probably, one of the greatest poets ever in humanity. Even translated from the Sanskrit into English, Kalidasa is on par with Shakespeare, with, the greatest. They have no idea about Sri Aurobindo or about the first revolutionaries. They have no idea about Vedic mathematics, about the Vedas. Vedas is it's not just a mambo jumbo. There are deep truths in the ancient Indian scriptures, which today your youth has no idea about. As a Frenchman, I'm taught about Napoleon. Napoleon is a great hero in France. I was born, not far from his tomb in the Les Invalides. Every year there are books and films about Napoleon. People might criticize him, but he was a great statesman. Now in India, you have someone called Shivaji Maharaj who is on par. He's on par with Napoleon. He was as good as a warrior, with a few hundred men. He held his ground against the most powerful army of his time, But he was also a statesman, he had vision. He did, he built India's first navy. He made forts. He was secular. He never harmed the women or the children of his enemies, like Maharana Pratap in Rajasthan. Another great guy. No place in your history books. Hardly a few lines. So you have your youth, is just taught about Shakespeare and IT but this is not enough. This whole thing has to change. Unless you have a youth who's proud to be Indian, how are you going to move forward? How are you going to motivate Indians to change this poverty, to have more equality, to work for India instead of exporting? The greatest brain drain in the world is from India. All your brilliant students, all your good brains, they just go abroad. You need to bring them back here, and for that there has to be some nationalism. You can say, yes, there are problems, and we know that India is a huge country, so much diversity, so many people, so many languages, from state to state you have different customs, different languages. Of course it's a difficult country. Of course there are enormous problems. But there is hope, The problem is that India was colonized for too long, That's the problem. If you look at China, the Chinese, they're opposite, They're so proud and so jingoistic and so nationalistic that, they're on the opposite spectrum. But they were never colonized. I mean, there was hardly any Westerners who were able to set foot in China. So as a result, you see that, China is moving forward because there are people who are proud to be Chinese, even if it is overly proud. In India, it's absolutely the opposite. You have a media, you have an intelligentsia who keeps telling you that you're useless. And me as a Westerner, I have to say, no, you're not useless. You're great people. You have a great ancient history. You have, great gurus and great scientists. And so it's a bit discouraging, actually, that this intelligentsia still holds its ground. They still have a sway in the newspapers, in the televisions, It's only on the social media that you see a little bit of nationalism today. In Facebook, in Twitter, you see that there is a thirst amongst Indians, to say, no, we are not so hopeless. There is hope, we can do something. But it is not coming out of the social media. It is not coming into the mainstream. I mean, as a journalist, I also believe that truth is absolute. I mean, there is an absolute truth, and you cannot do anything about it. So India lacks that. India lost for many reasons. Colonization, there are so many reasons. I don't want to get into it. But that spirit, which the Westerners have, of fighting for what is true, fighting for what I believe, even if the world believes I'm wrong, I'm willing to fight for it. Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister of India, where no Western nation in the world has had a woman president. United States never had a woman president. They might have if Mrs. Clinton wins, but that's not even sure. So in this country, women have played an important role. They've been great warriors. Ahilyabai of Indore, she was an extraordinary woman. Extraordinary woman. She was not even of royal blood. She was adopted. And she created a battalion of women. She had a battalion of women warriors. She fought herself. She built forts. She built temples. The Kashi Vishwanath temple is built by Ahilyabai. You have Chenama in the south, you have the Rani of Jhansi, and nearer to us, even in South Asia. I interviewed Benazir Bhutto twice. She was a woman in an Islamic country, in a very, country of machism. And she was sitting, every time I saw her sitting on the desk, and all the men were standing and bowing down. Same is true in Bangladesh, also an Islamic country. So this tradition of the Shakti of women playing an important role is even pervaded in the whole of South Asia. India is a leading light, in Asia. But that voice is, there are so many forces which are trying to stifle that voice, and sometimes in the name of good statistics, and so you need first to produce a youth that is proud to be Indian. Because it is not so. And that is a catastrophe. And that is a great catastrophe. And for that, you need to reform the education system. But I see, what's happening now in India, and, Australians, Americans, Dutch coming with so much money and converting tribals and converting Dravidians, telling them that, you're not an Indian, you're a Dravidian, you were there before the Indian, which is totally untrue. The Aryan invasion theory, which is the foundation book of every history book in India, is false. It's been proved false. Even people like Romila Thapa, they've stepped back. They said, no, it probably didn't happen. Yet it's still the foundation book of every book on India. That white people came from the West, and colonized the tribals and the Dravidians, and imposed upon them the system of caste and the Hindu religion. It's totally false, but it's divided India. It's still dividing India today. And the other religion, says, if you don't believe in my God, I can kill you. It's my duty to kill you. There is only one knowledge in the world today that can give peace to the world. This is the knowledge which is here. But for that, you need to come up. India needs to come up, as an economic power, as a military power, listening to that lady telling that, you don't need any bomb, you don't need any weapons, What? Then you have China there, which is so aggressive and so powerful and so thirsty for territory and claiming, Arunachal Pradesh, which is bigger than, Tamil Nadu. You have Pakistan, who have the bomb, Islamic bomb, and who want Kashmir back at any cost, who feel that, when they lost Bangladesh, they need to get revenge upon India. How will India be, defenseless? India needs to be strong militarily also. And if you read the Gita, it says so clearly in the Gita, when your borders are in danger, your women are in danger, your people are in danger, your culture is in danger, you have to be strong, you have to fight. So that spirit is gone today. But if you apply this nationalism to India's growth, there's tremendous potential. You need to revamp your education for India to come up, to become the great nation that it deserves, that it can be. You need to revamp your entire education. And these people will slowly disappear. There is hope. You see what's happening in Kashmir today, but it was there 30 years ago. India is the only country in the world where their own people have become refugees in their own country. It's unheard of. There is no other country in the world where 400,000 people became refugees in their own country. But Kashmir opened my eyes. It is nothing about separatism. It's about, one religion which thinks that it's superior over another religion. That's all. We shouldn't, what you read in your newspapers is not necessarily the truth. You need to fight for what you hold the truth. I always fought for what I thought was the truth, whether, I'm wrong or right. I thought, and it's also in my, being a Frenchman, French are a little militant. So being a Frenchman, and, India gave me so much, most people most Westerners come to India to give something. So India gave me. I'm not trying to to flatter you, because I don't believe in flattery at all. But India gave me a lot. I mean, I learned so much here. I married an Indian. My work is about India. It's such a diverse country, so interesting for a journalist and a writer. I met so many extraordinary people in India. So many great gurus, and I learned pranayama here. These tools that you have today still, that you through the breath you can steady your mind, through meditation you can steady your heartbeat, through hatha yoga you can have your body more supple. They're lost in the world. I mean, of course now they're invading the world. But they come here. They're here. They're your legacy. They're your gift to the world. And they have no religion. And that's what Swami Vivekananda said, and Sri Aurobindo said, India is going to become the spiritual leader of the world. And it's happening. But India needs to be strong economically, politically, and militarily also. So I encourage all of you, to fight for this, in your own area. And India is a great country. Thank you very much.